Okay, hi friends, welcome back to another session of IIB Guru, where I'm trying to teach on how to make use of a mapping node. This is a simple example that I am taking. In this particular example, I'm going to transform a text message or a delimited message, colon delimited message, to a XML message by making use of a mapping node. I believe that I already covered this by making use of a compute node, but in this example, we'll make use of a mapping node instead. So what I'm going to do is for a mapping node to work on transformation between two different message formats, the main configuration that is needed on the mapping node side is we need to have message definitions specific to the colon delimited message as well as the definition for the XML message. So we already covered like how do we create message definition for a delimited message and also for a XML message in our previous example when we are talking about message definitions, message sets. So in this example, I will not again go through the same process, but instead I have already created a message set which contains the text delimited message definition as well as the XML specific message definition. Now, my use case is very simple, transforming a text message to a XML message by making use of mapping node. So without much ado, I would like to share my screen and show you. So here is something which I was talking about. So the use case here, which I'm going to show you, is making use of a mapping node. I'm going to transform a text message to a XML message. Let me show you the examples. So here you can see, I'll show you what text message I was talking about. So this is the text message I was talking about. You can see there are 4 fields in each of the record. Field 1 is talking about the employee number. Field 2 is talking about employee name. Field 3 is employee city. Field 4 is employee salary. Okay, so each record has been delimited by making use of something called a CRLF. This is the delimiter, CRLF. I am just making use of the show symbol view. Show end of the line in the show symbol of the view tab. Just go to the view tab in Notepad++, go to the show symbol and check show end of the line, and it's going to show you where the end of the line is or what is the delimiter that is being used between each record. Okay, if it is too clumsy for you, just take the show end of the line. Okay, that's just for your understanding. And then this would be my input message that I'm going to feed it the message flow where mapping node is contained, and my mapping node takes the responsibility of transforming this particular text message, which is delimited by colon between the fields and which is delimited by carriage return line feed between the records, into a XML message. Now how my XML message will look like, I will show you. No, this is not the XML message. Okay, let me show you the XSD which is pertaining to the output XML message. So my output XML message will contain employee as a root tag, and then under employee I will have instances of employee EMP by name EMP, and each EMP will have employee number, employee name, employee city, and salary. In this way, I will have like 4 employees, 4 EMP instances, in which each EMP instance will have employee number, employee name, employee city, and employee salary. So that would be my output message, output XML message. So quickly, what I'm going to do, or what I have done, is create a message set by some name. I made use of a name called as map underscore example underscore message set project, and then under this message set project, I created a message definition. So the message definition, I have 2 message definitions. One message definition pertaining to the XML message that I'm going to get as output. Okay, I hope that everybody has followed my previous class how to create message definition for a delimited message or an XML message. So from that you can learn how to create this. And then I have a text delimited message definition also, okay, with a record delimiter as CRLF and a field delimiter inside the record as colon. So now I have 2 message definitions ready. So let me create a message flow under an application which will make use of a mapping node. So application as a mapping node example app, and under this I'm going to create a message flow by name map text to XML. This would be my message flow name. Okay, now we got the canvas and palette ready. So let's drag and drop the nodes, MQ input. I'm not worried about what protocol I'm using. I can use file protocol or MQ or HTTP. Any protocol is okay. The motto of this class is to teach you how to make use of mapping node. So under transformation, I have mapping node, and where do you send the output? You send the output to a MQ output specific queue. So I'm making just making the connections possible. In order to, just a brief explanation about mapping node. Mapping node has totally 3 terminals, 1 input terminal and 2 output terminal. 1 input terminal specific to take the input message from any like previous nodes or any upstream nodes, and the other 2 output terminals, 1 output terminal to send the message, processed message from the mapping node, and the other output terminal which sends the failure messages, a failure that occurs in the scope of the mapping node. So now let me just give the mandatory properties related to the queue name. Here also the queue name in and out. Okay, and input message parsing. I told you we are going to transform a text message as input, and the mapping node takes the responsibility to transform the text message into XML message and send it to the output queue, that is out. So as we said, the text message is the input. First of all, we have to select the message domain. Since the message format that we are going to get as input is text, we don't select XML NSC because XML NSC is specific for XML message, and then we go with MRM. So if we select MRM, we have to give the message model. Message model is nothing but it's the message set ID that is pertaining to the text message definition that you have created. So message model is nothing but it's a message set ID onto which a message definition specific for your text message that you are sending as input is contained. So if you see, if you go for browse, you will not see any message set. Why? Because you did not reference your message set project to the appropriate application. So right click the application, don't right click. Okay, right click the application, go to the properties, project references, map ex. So this is how you reference. No problem. This is how you reference, and then you have the message set reference to the appropriate application. So what you are going to do is you are going to select the message model now. Now when you go for a message model, you will have the appropriate message set present as part of the application. You can select, and now you can see the unique ID specific to the message set, into which the message definition that is containing the employee text message definition is contained in the message set. See, it's very simple. This message set ID is a unique ID specific to the message set, into which the message definition pertaining to the input text message or delimited message is contained. So when you drop down, you will get the message part. What is a message? Message is nothing but the complex type of the text message that you want to select. Like if you go scroll down, you will have the complex type for, this is the complex type for XML message, that is the output, and this is the complex type for the text message. You also have txt_emp. It all boils down at which level you want to select the message. If you select the message just for this level, only one record of the message. If a text delimited message which contains only one record, let me show you. Let's say we don't have these records. Let's imagine whatever is selected in the gray, we don't have those records as part of this employee_dl.txt. Employee_dl.txt is the name of the text message. Whatever we have selected here, the gray area, let's remove this. Now how many records we have? We have only one record. Now when you pass this record and specify the message as txt_emp, then the parsing would be successful. Okay, but when you have all these multiple records, when you have multiple records and when you select this message as txt_emp, there would be a parsing error. Why? Because this txt_emp subjects the MQ input node to pass only one record. But when you go with txt_employee, then your MQ input node is capable of parsing multiple delimited records. Okay, so that's the difference. Now we will select txt_employee. Physical format is text1. Okay, for text message, physical format is text1, and nothing to be set at the output node. Okay, so let's go to the mapping node. I told you at the beginning of the class that mapping node, in order to transform from a source message to a destination message, or from an input message to output message, we need to have message definition specific to the input message that the mapping node is receiving, and the output message that the mapping node is trying to send out from its perspective. So when you go to the mapping node, double click the mapping node. You see, before you go inside the mapping node, I'll show you mapping routine. What is the name of the mapping routine? If you observe the compute node will have a ESQL module. If you drag and drop a compute node and try to open the compute node as part of the message flow, then compute node will have a ESQL module. What is the name of the ESQL module? The name of the ESQL module would be the name of the message flow, underscore the compute. That would be the standard name. But when you go with, when I say name of the message flow is a map_txt_xml. This is the name of the message flow. And a compute node, when it is placed in the scope of the message flow, it will have the ESQL module name as map_txt_xml underscore compute. That would be the name. If you place another compute node, then it will be map underscore txt underscore xml underscore compute 1. In the same way, mapping node will have routine. The name of the mapping routine will be the flow name underscore mapping. This will be the mapping routine name. This is a default name. You can always change the name. Okay, there is it's not mandatory to keep the same name. You can always change the name. So enter double click the mapping node, then you will have message map called by message flow node. Okay, so the container is nothing but the application name, and the map name is nothing but the routine name that we were talking about. Okay, and go for next. And here, if you have reference your message set appropriately containing the input and the output message definitions, then you can select the map inputs and map outputs at this phase. So in the map inputs, if you remember, we are trying to get an input message which is a delimited text message with colon. So let's select the message definitions, expand message sets, and you have three specific parts that you can select. So employee is specific to the XML message definition. TXT underscore employee is something you need to select because you are sending text as the input. And then output is employee, this is related to the XML message definition. This is related to the text definition. And next, so obviously the output domain is XML NSE because we are trying to send an output as XML message to the output node. Finish. Here you have to understand one thing. Any message that is expelled out of MQ input node will have the structure, message structure as properties would be the first child, MQMD would be the second child, and if there are any other protocol specific headers like MQRFH2, MQDLH, then they would be the subsequent childs, and the final child would be the domain of the message, which in this case is MRM. You can also have XML NSE, you can have JSON. So there are different domains of messages that are present, but usually when a message is sent out of MQ input node or a queue, then the message structure would be the first child would be properties, the subsequent child will be MQMD, and after MQMD, if there are any other protocol specific node, protocol specific headers that are made to be used by the application, then those would be the subsequent headers, and the final child of the message will be the domain of the message, and the domain of the message will have a child which is the body of the actual message. So now if you see in the mapping node scope, see the connections, the properties of the input message assembly are directly connected to the properties of the output message assembly. You see the message assembly txt underscore employee is referring to the text message assembly, and employee message assembly employee is referring to the XML message. So you see there is a connection. This is the default connection. I did not make this connection. Whenever you try to select the input map, message definition and output message definition as maps in the mapping node, then a default connection is made between the properties. Okay, so what does it signify? The properties of the input message assembly are directly matched to the properties of the output message assembly. So if you want, you can check what are the properties that are matched. Message set, message type, everything is matched one by one. You can match everything one by one, or you can match just the properties, and then everything which is part of the properties of the input message assembly will be set to the appropriate fields of the output message assembly. Hope you understand. So this is the default property moving when you make use of a mapping node. Okay, so you have to observe one thing. I did not map these fields, they were defaultly mapped. Okay, now what in case of you want to change some MQMD properties? We will cover it in subsequent class, how to add the different headers, protocol specific headers, and change it when we are trying to move the message from an input queue to the output queue by making use of mapping node. So let's go. This is a simple case of making use of mapping node. So I don't want to make it a little bit like advanced. So making use of properties, I will consider it in the next class. So what is this? Like, you have text underscore employee, which is a text text specific message definition, and you have employee, which is a XML specific message definition. They are root children. So what you'll do, you'll try to map it. So it says local map. It means there are other elements as children of these elements that are mapped. So you need to map them locally. That's what it means. So what I am saying, I'm just trying to map the parent fields of the input and the output message assembly. So what's happening, it's saying there's a local map. Local map means inside these parent field scope, there are other elements also which needs to be locally mapped. That's what it's asking us. So when you go to the local map, then you have the repeating fields or repeating complex types that are specific to the input and the output messages, which are children of the parents, txt underscore employee and employee. You have to match these two. And then it says for each, because there are, if you observe the input message, there are 4 records. So each record is expressed as txt underscore emp, and the same way the output also is expected to have multiple instances of or multiple occurrences of emp. So for each, if you go for each, then what happens, it's going to, when you go into the scope of for each, it will give you the individual fields. So map the fields that you want to send as output. Okay, so you see further, when we try to map these fields individually, you don't get anything called as local map or for each further. Move is the last step. Move is the last step that we get as part of mapping. Okay, so what does it do? It simply moves the input element to the output element. What do I mean by moves the input element? So don't take me wrong, it's going to this particular move action, let's call it as action. Move action, what does it do? It's going to take the field value of the field given here. You see text underscore esal, if it is 1000, then it's going to take the value and place it in the esal XML field as its value. Okay, so if there are any castings that needs to be done for moving the input field value to the output field value, and if they are implicit casting, no problem. If they are explicit casting, then you need to apply the casting before you try to move it. Okay, so we will deal about that on the subsequent class, but this is a simple mapping. Just save it and then try to deploy into the execution group. Okay, then we'll try to launch the debugger. Is the debugging points or breakpoints, and then try to make use of RFHUtil and place the text message and see whether the text message is transformed into the appropriate XML message. So before doing that, let's purge the queues in order to avoid any confusions of the previous messages that are present. In and out are the queues that we are going to use. So make use of in and then copy the message. Okay, so it's not here. Sorry, IIB Guru desktop. So let's see whether the message is correct. Let's go with CRLF, and yes, this is the message you are going to send as input. Write it. So let's see whether it is passed successfully or not, passed correctly or not. That is source lookup path, message flow container. Okay, so let's see MRM. Yes, 4 instances txt underscore emp. Yes, everything is correct. Now let's pass it through the mapping node. Yes, so let's say XML and SC employee. Yes, 4 instances of emp. Yes, let's check out. 59 is the length XML. So yes, everything is correct. So this is what we expected as the output. Employee is a root child, emp are multiple occurrences of emp we are getting, and under emp we have the respective fields with the field values that we are sending from the input message. Okay, so this is how you make use of a mapping node. It's a simple use case for a mapping node. We will deal with making use of functions and calling ESQL modules or ESQL like routines from the scope of the mapping node in the subsequent class. Thank you. Please do share my videos. I'm very thankful to you because I'm getting a lot of messages which are boosting my which are boosting my they are encouraging. First of all, they are encouraging, very much encouraging for me to give new classes that are related to IIB topics. I'm very soon starting Datapower specific videos also. So I will upload it. Please do like my videos and share my videos and subscribe to my channel. Okay, this is Saif signing off.